All right, welcome to this explainer, beverage professionals. We are jumping straight into one of the most technically advanced, yet honestly often completely underestimated, wine frontiers in all of Central Europe. So if you're a sommelier looking to elevate your tasting menus with some truly aristocratic, precision-driven wines, well, you are exactly where you need to be. Consider this your masterclass in decoding the Luxembourg Moselle. It's a terroir that produces this remarkably focused range of white and sparkling wines with a precision that borders on like mathematical perfection. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this tasting grid briefing. We'll kick things off with macro terroir and climate, look at the region's soil duality, decode the AOP quality hierarchy, break down the key varieties, and finally wrap up with Cremant and dessert wines.
Section 1. Macro terroir and climate. The magic and rigor of latitude 49 degrees north. Okay, so we are looking at a hyper-focused 42-kilometer strip along the left bank of the Moselle River. It runs right from Schengen up to Wasserbillig. And just look at the sheer verticality here. This is officially classified as heroic viticulture, and for good reason. We're talking about kinetic slope management on inclines that routinely push past 50 degrees. Up here at this extreme 49-degree northern latitude, viticulture is literally pushed to its absolute limits. But that's exactly what dictates the slow, prolonged ripening cycle that's so critical for preserving that vibrant, natural acidity. Now, because mechanized harvesting is pretty much impossible at this crazy angle, it demands exhaustive manual handling, from winter pruning all the way through to harvest. And yeah, while that absolutely drives up production costs, it essentially guarantees a pristine, rigorous triage, giving us an incredibly pure must.
So you might be wondering, in a cold northern climate, how do these grapes actually reach that perfect phenolic ripeness? Well, the albedo phenomenon is the geographical secret weapon of the region. The Moselle River acts as this massive thermal corridor, absorbing heat by day and releasing it at night to fight off frost. But even more importantly, the water's surface acts like a giant mirror. It reflects sunlight, intensifying both the thermal and light radiation directly onto those steep south and southeast-facing slopes. It's this mirror effect that ensures the absolute optimal accumulation of sugars and aromatic precursors. It's pretty amazing.
Moving right along to Section 2, Soil Duality and Wine Profiles, the Muschelkalk versus Keuper divide. Now, as a sommelier, grasping this north-south geological split is non-negotiable. If you know exactly where a Luxembourg Moselle wine was grown, you can accurately anticipate the entire structure of the wine before it even hits your glass. Take a look at this visual contrast. Representing the southern sector from Schengen to Riemich, we have Muschelkalk, or shell limestone. It's deep, it's heavy, and it's porous, which makes it excellent for retaining water during dry spells. Then, representing the northern sector from Grevenmacher to Wasserbillig, we have Keuper. This is a stony, shallow clay schist or slate. And because of its darker color and makeup, this schist retains daytime heat way more efficiently than the limestone, releasing it during those really cold northern nights.
So what does this actually mean for your tasting grid? Well, wines grown in the southern Muschelkalk soils boast incredible opulence. You can expect a higher dry extract, a slightly higher pH, and this voluminous, almost silky texture backed by a chalky minerality. Conversely, those northern Keuper soils, they produce wines defined by pure electricity. They offer a penetrating verticality, a really distinct saline sensation, and a super vibrant, pungent citrus acidity. You absolutely want to keep this duality in mind when you're structuring your pairings.
Section 3. The AOP Quality Hierarchy, the rigorous 20-point blind tasting protocol.
So back in 2011, they completely overhauled their system to align with European standards, and today, the AOP Moselle Luxembourgeois enforces one of the most grueling, uncompromising sensory evaluation protocols in the entire wine world. Go ahead and grab a screenshot of this cheat sheet, because this is exactly how you decode a Luxembourg wine list. Every single wine aspiring to an AOP label has to face an independent tasting panel and get scored on this strict 20-point scale. Anything below a 12, summarily disqualified, done. 12 to 13.9 gets you the basic AOP. 14 to 15.9 earns vin de quality, which signals a really clean execution. But the true prestige starts at 16 points for Premier Cru, denoting serious aging potential. And finally, scoring 18 or above grants the coveted Grand Premier Cru, representing absolute excellence, maximum depth, and just the purest expression of the terroir.
Now, there is a very specific reason why those top wines achieve such incredible depth, and it comes down to the number 60. While entry-level AOP wines are capped at a maximum yield of 100 hectoliters per hectare, Grand Premier Cru wines restrict yields to a staggering 60 hectoliters or sometimes even less. Make no mistake, this is a deliberate, highly strategic financial sacrifice by the winemaker. They are actively choosing to prioritize must density, which is the absolute concentration of sugars, acids, and aromatics, over sheer volume.
Section 4. Key varieties and tasting notes. Let's check out the Moselle repertoire in the glass.
All right, we've covered the soils and the laws. Now let's actually prep your palate for the specific phenolic profiles you're going to encounter. Here is your varietal matrix. Notice Auxerrois right at the top? Honestly, this is the hidden gem of Luxembourg. Grown on that limestone, it offers a silky texture with opulent peach and mango notes, and a slightly milder acidity. Pinot Blanc is the true flagship here, bringing incredible structure and balance, while Pinot Gris brings immense body and extract. Riesling, as you might predict, shines on the northern schist soils, delivering electric, saline minerality and massive aging potential. And finally, whatever you do, don't overlook Elbling. This ancient variety provides the rustic vibrancy and extreme high-acid backbone that is absolutely crucial for their base wines.
Let's see how all this builds into their overarching philosophy. As a buyer or a sommelier, you really need to draw a sharp contrast in your mind between the Luxembourg Moselle and the German Moselle. Over the border, you might expect a spectrum of residual sugar. Not here. No way. Luxembourg winemakers are fiercely dedicated to the trocken, or dry, philosophy. These wines are undeniably dry, significantly fuller-bodied thanks to that southern sun exposure, and defined by a flinty, mineral backbone and absolute terroir purity, rather than leaning on residual sweetness.
Section 5. Crémant and rare dessert wines. Technical mastery from autolysis to extreme cold.
First up, let's talk bubbles, Crémant de Luxembourg. It accounts for an impressive 25% of the Grand Duchy's wine production, moving from rigorous autolysis to just absolute mastery. These technical rules, totally non-negotiable. They mandate the traditional method with the second fermentation happening right in the bottle. Harvesting is strictly manual. Only the absolute finest first pressing, the tête de cuvée, is even permitted. They require a minimum of 9 months of autolysis on the lees to get that rich brioche complexity. And wonderfully, they frequently incorporate Riesling into the blend. The strict preservation of malic acidity, combined with these standards, results in a sparkling wine that easily, and I mean easily, rivals top-tier French champagne. But when they do decide to make sweet wines, they execute them flawlessly. Take the harrowing process for vin de glace, or ice wine. First comes the agonizing wait, leaving completely healthy Riesling grapes on the vine deep into autumn, fully exposed to birds and rot. Second is the critical freeze. The harvest can only happen when temperatures plunge and hold below -7 degrees Celsius. Finally, the grapes are pressed incredibly slowly while still completely frozen solid. The water remains behind as ice, which is basically nature's ultimate filtration system, extracting this ultra-concentrated nectar. The result? You get a wine with crystalline sweetness that is flawlessly balanced by a monumental acidity of over 12 grams per liter.
Just briefly, I also have to touch on this absolute masterpiece, vin de paille, or straw wine. Rather than freezing, this relies on a really artisanal 2-month dehydration process called passerage. The grapes are actually dried on mats, losing over half their volume. This extreme concentration yields this luxurious, syrupy texture with complex notes of saffron, dried figs, and candied orange peel. But again, it is held beautifully together by that signature Moselle freshness and high natural acidity, which entirely prevents it from ever feeling cloying on the palate.
And that brings us to the end of our explainer. We've covered those incredible steep slopes, the thermal mirrors on the river, the contrasting limestone and schist, the exacting 20-point quality laws, and the pure, dry philosophy of the region. So the question I want to leave you with today is this. How will you integrate the mineral precision, the striking acidity, and the true aristocratic depth of the Luxembourg Moselle into your next pairing menu? The tools are now in your hands. Thank you so much for joining me, and happy tasting.